Florida air always carried a strange mix of things. Salt from the Atlantic. Humidity thick enough to feel like a wet blanket on your skin. And sometimes, the quiet smell of betrayal. The night before my wedding, I was standing barefoot on the balcony of my Miami Beach condo, watching the neon reflections shimmer across Ocean Drive like spilled paint. Palm trees swayed slowly in the warm midnight breeze. Down below, tourists laughed outside bars, music pulsed through open doors, and sports cars rolled by like they owned the world. It was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. But my phone buzzed. And in less than 30 seconds, my entire life cracked open. Holy crap, Ava, you need to see this. My best friend Kayla's voice came through the phone, tight and uneasy. I frowned. Kayla, it's midnight. If this is about the bridesmaid dresses again. It's not the dresses. Silence. Just long enough to make my stomach drop. It's your trust fund. The words didn't even make sense at first. My what? Your trust fund, she repeated. The one your dad set up when your mom died. A strange chill slid down my spine despite the humid Florida heat. Yeah, what about it? Kayla hesitated. And when she spoke again, her voice had dropped to a whisper. Ava, it's gone. I laughed. Actually laughed. Because the idea was ridiculous. Impossible. That's not funny. I'm not joking. My smile faded slowly. Kayla worked as a junior financial analyst at the private wealth firm my father used. She wouldn't make something like this up. Kayla, explain. More silence. Then she sighed. Your dad transferred the entire trust fund today. My throat tightened. Transferred, where? To your sister. For a moment, the world simply stopped moving. The traffic noise below. The distant music. The ocean waves. Everything faded into a hollow ringing in my ears. My sister? I said quietly. Kayla swallowed. Yeah. My half-sister. Lily. Lily had always been my father's favorite. Everyone knew it. Even when we were kids. Even when my mom was still alive. Lily could break a window and Dad would say it was an accident. If I spilled orange juice, he'd lecture me about responsibility for 20 minutes. But this? This was different. The trust fund wasn't just money. It was my mother's money. $5 million she left specifically for me. Money she'd written into her will before cancer took her when I was 15. Money my father had promised. Over and over. Would always be mine. I gripped the balcony railing. Maybe you read something wrong. I didn't, Kayla said softly. It happened tonight. Like, literally a few hours ago. Why? That's the weird part. A cold feeling crawled up my spine. What do you mean weird? Kayla hesitated again. Then she said something that made my chest tighten. The transfer notes say it was approved by you. My heart skipped. What? Your signature was on the authorization file. That's impossible. I know. The word hung there. Heavy. Kayla. I never signed anything. I figured. She lowered her voice even more. But Ava, there's another thing. The air felt suddenly thick. What? Kayla exhaled slowly. Your fiancé was listed as a witness on the transfer. The world tilted. Ethan? Yeah. My fingers loosened around the railing. No, that's not possible. His name's right there in the documents. I stared out at the ocean. Waves crashed softly against the shore. But suddenly they sounded distant. Unreal. Kayla, are you sure? Positive. My chest tightened painfully. That doesn't make sense. I thought you should know before tomorrow. Tomorrow. My wedding day. The ceremony was planned at Vizcaya Gardens. White roses. String lights. 200 guests. My father was walking me down the aisle. And Ethan? Ethan was supposed to be the man who loved me. I forced myself to breathe. There has to be some mistake. Kayla didn't answer. Which somehow made it worse. I'll call Dad, I said finally. Okay. And Ethan? Yeah, maybe talk to him. Yeah. But something in Kayla's tone felt uneasy. Kayla, I asked slowly. What? Do you think they planned this? The silence lasted several seconds. Then she said quietly. I don't know. And somehow, that scared me more than a yes. 20 minutes later I was driving through Miami's glowing night streets. My white Audi cut through traffic along Biscayne Boulevard, neon reflections sliding across the windshield. My heart pounded harder with every mile. Dad lived 20 minutes away in Coral Gables. Big Mediterranean mansion. Iron gates. Perfect landscaping. The kind of house that screamed money. And control. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was still lit up. Which wasn't unusual. My father barely slept. I climbed out of the car, heels clicking against the stone driveway. The front door opened before I even rang the bell. My father stood there. Tall. Silver hair. Expensive robe. And the same calculating eyes he'd always had. Ava? His eyebrows lifted. What are you doing here this late? I stepped inside. Nice to see you too, Dad. He frowned. You should be resting. Tomorrow's your wedding. Yeah. My voice came out colder than I expected. That's actually why I'm here. He studied me carefully. Something flickered in his expression. Then he sighed. Ava, if this is about the seating arrangements again, why did you move my trust fund? The room went silent. For a moment, my father didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Then slowly, he closed the door behind me. I see, he said calmly. So you found out. My stomach twisted. You're not denying it. He walked toward the living room like nothing unusual had happened. Come sit down. I'd rather stand. He poured himself a drink from the crystal decanter. Scotch. His favorite. You always were dramatic. $5 million disappeared today, Dad. Yes. And you gave it to Lily. Yes. My voice cracked. That was Mom's money. His expression hardened slightly. Your mother trusted me to manage the family finances. No, I snapped. She trusted you to protect me. He took a slow sip of scotch. Ava, you're getting married tomorrow. So? So your financial future is about to change. I stared at him. What does that mean? He set the glass down. And said something that made my blood run cold. I don't trust your fiancé. The words hit like a punch. What? I've done my research. What research? My father's tone turned clinical. Ethan has significant business debts. That's normal. He owns a startup. He also has 3 failed investments. Dad. And, he continued calmly, he's been asking questions about your trust fund for months. My stomach tightened. That's not. I moved the money to Lily temporarily to protect it. My hands curled into fists. You stole it. I safeguarded it. You forged my signature. His expression didn't change. You'll get the money back eventually. When? After I'm sure Ethan isn't marrying you for it. Anger burned through my chest. You don't get to decide that. I'm your father. I'm 30. He shrugged slightly. Still my responsibility. You humiliated me. I protected you. You betrayed me. For the first time. My father looked slightly annoyed. Ava, stop being emotional. My laugh came out bitter. Emotional? Yes. You just robbed your daughter. I prevented a bigger mistake. And Ethan signed as witness? He hesitated. Just for a split second. But I saw it. Yes, he said finally. Why? Because he understands the situation. My heart skipped. What situation? My father looked at me carefully. Then he said something that shattered the ground beneath my feet. The situation where your fiancé already knows the truth. My breath caught. What truth? He studied me. And for the first time all night. My father looked surprised. You mean he hasn't told you? Cold fear crawled up my spine. Told me what? My father leaned back slowly. Ava. His voice dropped slightly. You should ask Ethan why he agreed to the transfer. My pulse roared in my ears. He wouldn't. He did. No. Ava. The way he said my name made my chest tighten. Then he said quietly. Your fiancé signed the documents willingly. The room spun. That's not possible. Check the paperwork. You're lying. I have no reason to lie. I shook my head. No. Ethan loves me. My father gave a small, almost pitying smile. Love and money rarely mix well. My chest felt like it was collapsing. Why would he do that? My father picked up his glass again. That's something you'll need to ask him. My hands trembled. Where is he? At his apartment, I assume. My heart pounded wildly. I'm going there. My father didn't stop me. But as I turned toward the door, he said quietly. Ava. I paused. You might want to prepare yourself. For what? His eyes were cold. Sometimes the people we trust most. He took another sip of scotch. Are the ones who plan the betrayal. 20 minutes later I was outside Ethan's apartment in Brickell. The high-rise tower glittered against the night sky. My chest felt tight. My mind raced with questions. None of them had answers. I rode the elevator to the 32nd floor. The hallway was silent. I walked toward his door. And then I froze. Because the door was slightly open. Inside I heard voices. A woman's voice. And Ethan's. I stepped closer quietly. My heart pounding. Then I heard the words that made my entire world collapse. Ethan laughed softly and said. Relax. Ava has no idea the trust fund's already gone. Miami mornings have a way of pretending everything is normal. The sun rises slow and golden over Biscayne Bay, lighting up glass towers and palm trees like a postcard. Joggers run along the waterfront. Coffee shops open their doors. Traffic hums across the MacArthur Causeway. The city wakes up like nothing bad has ever happened. But that morning, my entire world had already shattered. And no one else knew it yet. I stood outside Ethan's apartment door, frozen. The hallway smelled faintly of fresh paint and expensive cologne drifting from inside the room. My pulse hammered in my ears. Relax, Ethan's voice said again inside the apartment. Ava has no idea the trust fund's already gone. A woman laughed. Soft. Confident. Oh, please. She worships you. She wouldn't question anything. My stomach twisted. I recognized that voice. Lily. My sister. My hand tightened slowly against the wall. The hallway suddenly felt too small. Too quiet. Inside the apartment, Ethan spoke again. Still, tomorrow's gonna be messy. Lily chuckled. Messy? You're about to marry a woman who thinks she's richer than half of Florida. He exhaled. Not for long. My chest burned. What about after the wedding? Lily asked. We wait, Ethan said. For what? For the divorce. They both laughed. Not loudly. Just casually. Like they were discussing weekend plans. I couldn't breathe. My fiancé. My sister. Planning my financial ruin like it was a business deal. Lily's voice lowered. Dad still thinks he's the mastermind. Ethan snorted. He basically handed us the money. He thinks the trust is safe with me. It is, Ethan replied calmly. Just not from us. Another laugh. The sound felt like knives sliding under my skin. Then Lily said something that made my stomach drop even further. So, once you marry her tomorrow, you'll legally have access to everything she still owns. Exactly. And after the divorce? Ethan's voice went cold. Half of whatever's left. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a quiet internal shift. Like a door closing. I stepped back from the door silently. My hands weren't shaking anymore. My breathing slowed. Because suddenly, everything made sense. Dad moving the trust. Ethan signing the documents. Lily involved. It wasn't one betrayal. It was a coordinated plan. And I had been the only idiot who didn't know. I walked down the hallway calmly. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding. As I stepped inside, my reflection stared back at me from the mirrored walls. Wedding rehearsal makeup still faintly on my face. Hair slightly messy from the ocean breeze earlier. I looked like a woman about to get married. But inside, I felt like someone else entirely. The elevator descended. My phone buzzed. Ethan. Calling me. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then answered. Hey babe, Ethan said warmly. The same voice that had just been planning to destroy me. You okay? I tried calling earlier. I leaned against the elevator wall. Yeah. Where are you? Just driving around. You nervous about tomorrow? I almost laughed. Something like that. He chuckled softly. Hey, listen. I know weddings can be stressful, but everything's gonna be perfect. Perfect. The word echoed in my head. You sure about that? I asked. Of course. His tone was smooth. Confident. Practiced. Ava, tomorrow we start our life together. The elevator doors opened into the lobby. Yeah, I said quietly. Tomorrow. I hung up before he could say anything else. Outside, Miami traffic roared past the building. Morning sunlight bounced off skyscrapers. People rushed to work. The world kept moving. Like nothing had happened. But inside my mind, something was already changing. Because betrayal does something strange to a person. It either destroys you, or it teaches you how to fight. I drove straight to the beach. South Point Park was quiet this early. Just a few joggers and dog walkers moving along the path. I sat on a bench facing the ocean. Waves rolled in slowly. Seagulls cried overhead. My brain replayed everything I'd heard. Every word. Every laugh. Every lie. My sister. My fiancé. My father. 3 people I trusted. All involved. But something still didn't add up. Because Lily didn't have control of the trust fund yet. She only held it. Which meant someone else had to approve future withdrawals. And I knew exactly who that someone was. My phone rang again. This time it was Kayla. Ava? Yeah. Did you talk to your dad? Yeah. And? I stared out at the water. He confirmed it. Oh my God. And Ethan signed the documents. Kayla inhaled sharply. What? Yeah. Silence. Then she asked carefully. Do you think Ethan knew? I closed my eyes. I heard him. What do you mean? I heard him and Lily talking. Kayla gasped. They're working together. Yes. Oh my God, Ava. I let out a slow breath. They're planning to divorce me after the wedding. Kayla sounded furious now. Those absolute snakes. Yep. You're not still marrying him, right? I watched the waves crash against the rocks. And said something that surprised even me. Oh, I'm definitely marrying him. Kayla went quiet. Ava. Trust me. What are you thinking? I smiled slightly. Revenge. The word felt good. Sharp. Clean. Precise. They think I'm stupid, I continued. They think tomorrow is the beginning of their plan. Kayla hesitated. So, what's your plan? I stood up from the bench. The Florida sun warmed my face. My plan, I said slowly, is to let them believe they've already won. The next few hours passed in a blur of wedding chaos. Florists. Phone calls. Dress fittings. Family arriving from out of state. Everyone kept asking the same thing. Are you excited? I smiled. Nodded. Pretended. Because the truth was, I had never been more focused in my life. By afternoon, I was back at my condo. Kayla arrived carrying 2 iced coffees. She studied my face carefully. You look scary calm. That's because I am. Most brides cry the day before their wedding. Most brides don't discover a financial conspiracy. She handed me the coffee. So what's step 1 of your revenge plan? I leaned against the kitchen counter. Information. About what? Everything. I opened my laptop. Because if Ethan and Lily think they're smarter than me. Kayla smirked. They've clearly never met angry Ava. 2 hours later. We had already uncovered something interesting. Kayla scrolled through financial records on her tablet. Okay, this is weird. What? Your trust fund transfer. Yeah? The money didn't go directly to Lily. My eyebrows lifted. Then where? Kayla turned the screen toward me. To a holding company. The name appeared in bold letters. Silver Coast Holdings LLC. Who owns that? I asked. Kayla clicked deeper into the records. Then her eyes widened. Well, that's interesting. What? The company was created 3 months ago. By who? Kayla looked up slowly. Your fiancé. The room went silent. I leaned back in my chair. So Ethan created a shell company. Yep. And Dad transferred the trust fund into it. Looks like it. But Lily is listed as the beneficiary. Kayla nodded slowly. Meaning your sister technically owns the money. But Ethan controls the company. Exactly. I laughed quietly. Oh wow. Kayla tilted her head. You're taking this disturbingly well. Because now I understand the whole plan. I walked to the balcony, staring out at the Miami skyline. Step 1, I said. Dad moves the trust fund to Lily to protect it. Step 2, Kayla added, Ethan creates a company controlling the money. Step 3. I finished the thought. Ethan marries me. And step 4. Divorce me and take half of everything else. Kayla whistled. That's evil genius level. Not quite. What do you mean? I smiled slightly. They made one mistake. Kayla leaned forward. What? They assumed I'd never find out. The sun slowly dipped toward the horizon. Golden light filled the apartment. My phone buzzed again. Ethan. This time I answered on speaker. Hey beautiful, he said. Kayla rolled her eyes silently. Hey. You ready for tomorrow? Of course. I can't wait to marry you. The lie sounded effortless. Me too, I said sweetly. Dinner tonight? Actually, he said, I'm having a drink with your dad. My eyebrows lifted slightly. Oh yeah? Yeah, last-minute wedding stuff. I exchanged a glance with Kayla. Sounds important. It is. Then he added casually. Don't worry about anything. Everything's under control. After the call ended, Kayla stared at me. They're meeting tonight. Yep. You know what that means. I nodded slowly. They're celebrating. The room went quiet again. Kayla crossed her arms. So what happens tomorrow? I walked toward the window. The Miami skyline glittered against the darkening sky. Tomorrow, I said softly. I walked down the aisle. And? I turned toward her with a calm smile. Tomorrow. I paused. Everyone finds out the truth. Kayla's eyes widened. What are you planning? I picked up my phone and started typing. Something they'll never see coming. But as I hit send on the message, my phone buzzed again. A new notification. From an unknown number. Just one message. No name. No explanation. Only 6 words that made my blood run cold. You're not the only one planning revenge. Florida nights don't cool down the way people expect. Even after sunset, the air stays thick and warm, carrying the sound of distant traffic, ocean waves, and music drifting from rooftop bars across Miami. That night felt heavier than usual. Like the city itself knew something was about to explode. And maybe it did. Because in less than 12 hours, my wedding would become a battlefield. I stared at the message on my phone. You're not the only one planning revenge. No name. No number I recognized. Just those 6 words. Kayla leaned over my shoulder. Who sent that? I have no idea. Spam? I shook my head slowly. No. Because something about it didn't feel random. It felt deliberate. Calculated. Like whoever sent it knew exactly what was happening. Kayla frowned. That's creepy. Yeah. Did Ethan send it? I doubt it. Lily? Also unlikely. Kayla crossed her arms. Then who? I looked back at the phone. And realized something. They didn't threaten me. What do you mean? They didn't say stop. Kayla blinked. You're right. I turned the phone over slowly in my hand. They said revenge. Kayla's eyes widened. So, whoever sent this message hates them too. My phone buzzed again. Another text from the same number. A single address. The Rusty Pelican, Key Biscayne. 9:30 p.m. Kayla looked at the screen. You're not actually thinking about going, are you? I grabbed my car keys. Absolutely. Ava, that could be dangerous. So could marrying Ethan. She sighed. You're impossible. Correct. Fine, she said, grabbing her purse. I'm coming with you. The drive to Key Biscayne took 20 minutes. Night traffic moved steadily across the Rickenbacker Causeway, headlights reflecting off the dark water on both sides. Miami's skyline glowed behind us like a wall of light. The Rusty Pelican sat right on the waterfront, one of the most famous restaurants in the city. Expensive. Elegant. The kind of place businessmen made million-dollar deals over wine. Which made it the perfect location for secrets. We parked near the entrance. Kayla looked at me. If this is a serial killer situation, I'm blaming you. I smirked. Fair. Inside, the restaurant buzzed with quiet conversations and clinking glasses. Through the giant windows, the entire Miami skyline shimmered across the bay. A host approached us. Good evening. I'm meeting someone, I said. He checked the reservation list. Name? I hesitated. I'm not sure. Before he could respond, a voice behind us spoke. Ava. I turned around. And my heart nearly stopped. Mark? He stood a few feet away, hands in his jacket pockets. Mark Bennett. My ex-boyfriend. The man I dated for 3 years before Ethan. The man Ethan had always hated. The man I hadn't seen in almost 2 years. Kayla blinked. Wait, that Mark? Hi Ava, he said softly. My brain struggled to catch up. You sent the message? Yeah. I stared at him. You're the one planning revenge? He gave a small smile. Something like that. We sat at a quiet table overlooking the water. For a moment, no one spoke. Mark looked exactly the same. Tall. Dark hair. That calm, analytical look in his eyes. Except now he wore an expensive suit. And a watch that probably cost more than my car. Kayla broke the silence. Okay, someone start explaining before I lose my mind. Mark glanced at me. I assume you know about the trust fund. My jaw tightened. Yes. And Ethan? Yes. And Lily? Yes. He nodded slowly. Good. That saves time. Kayla leaned forward. How do you know about all this? Mark took a sip of water. Because Ethan tried to scam me first. My stomach dropped. What? Mark rested his elbows on the table. 6 months ago Ethan approached my investment firm. You have an investment firm now? Yeah. Kayla whispered, of course he does. Mark ignored her. He pitched a startup idea, he continued. What kind of startup? I asked. A financial tech company. I frowned. That sounds normal. It would be, Mark said calmly. Except the numbers were fake. The pieces began clicking together. You mean fraud? Mark nodded. He wanted investors to pour money into a company that didn't exist. Kayla whistled. That's bold. I turned him down immediately, Mark said. But I kept digging. And that's when I discovered his real plan. My pulse quickened. What plan? Mark looked directly at me. You. The word hung in the air. He knew about your trust fund, Mark said. He knew about your father's wealth. And he knew you still cared about him, Kayla added. Mark nodded. So he started dating you. My chest tightened. But we met by accident. Mark shook his head. No you didn't. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean? The coffee shop in Coral Gables? Yes. That wasn't random. My heart pounded. He planned it. Kayla's jaw dropped. You're kidding. Mark slid his phone across the table. On the screen was a document. Ethan's business proposal. And one line highlighted in yellow. Target asset, Ava Reynolds, projected marriage timeline 18 to 24 months. The restaurant suddenly felt colder. My fingers trembled slightly. He targeted me like a business investment. Mark nodded slowly. Yes. Kayla looked horrified. That's psychotic. Mark leaned back. But it gets worse. How? I asked quietly. He took a breath. Your sister was part of the plan from the beginning. I felt something twist deep in my chest. No. Mark nodded. Lily introduced him to the idea. Kayla slammed her hand on the table. That snake. Your sister has gambling debts, Mark explained. Over $2 million. My mind spun. She never told anyone. She didn't have to, Mark said. I found the records. And Ethan offered to help her. Yes. In exchange for helping him marry me. Mark nodded. The ocean waves outside crashed softly against the shore. But inside my head, everything was screaming. So this entire relationship, I said slowly, was a setup. Yes. And tomorrow's wedding is the final step. Kayla shook her head in disbelief. This is like a Netflix crime documentary. Mark leaned forward. But that's not why I called you tonight. I looked at him. Then why? His expression turned serious. Because Ethan is about to make a very big mistake. I narrowed my eyes. What mistake? Mark pulled out a tablet. Tomorrow he plans to move the trust fund money out of the holding company. Where? To an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Kayla blinked. That's extremely illegal. Correct, Mark said. And if he succeeds? I finished the sentence quietly. The money disappears forever. The realization hit like lightning. That's why the wedding has to happen tomorrow. Mark nodded. Once you're married, he gains legal leverage. And then the transfer happens. Kayla leaned forward. So what do we do? Mark looked directly at me. We stop him. The restaurant lights reflected across the dark water outside. For a moment, no one spoke. Then I asked the question sitting in my chest. Why are you helping me? Mark met my eyes. Because Ethan tried to scam me. Kayla snorted. That's petty revenge. Mark smiled slightly. And because. He hesitated. Ava deserves better than that guy. I looked away. The city lights flickered across the bay. So what's the plan? Mark's smile grew sharper. Oh, tomorrow's going to be fun. Back at my condo, Kayla paced the living room. So let me get this straight. Okay. Your fiancé is a financial con artist. Correct. Your sister is drowning in gambling debt. Yep. Your father accidentally helped them steal $5 million. Basically. And your ex-boyfriend wants to help you destroy them. Sounds about right. Kayla stopped pacing. You realize tomorrow's wedding might turn into a full-scale war. I looked at the wedding dress hanging near the window. White silk. Perfectly pressed. A symbol of love. Of trust. Of lies. And suddenly, I smiled. Good. Morning arrived faster than expected. Florida sunlight poured through the windows. My phone exploded with messages. Family. Friends. Wedding planners. Everyone excited. Everyone happy. Everyone completely unaware. Kayla entered the room carrying coffee. You sleep at all? No. Me neither. I took the cup from her. Today's the day. She raised an eyebrow. Bridezilla Revenge Day. Exactly. My phone buzzed. A text from Mark. Everything's ready. Outside, Miami was already alive. The ceremony would take place in 4 hours. At the historic Vizcaya Gardens. One of the most beautiful wedding venues in Florida. Stone fountains. European gardens. Ocean views. The perfect setting for a fairy tale wedding. Or a public scandal. Kayla looked at me carefully. You're really going through with this? Yes. You're actually marrying him? Yes. And then? I smiled slowly. Then we ruin his life. But as I picked up my phone, another message appeared. This one from Ethan. Just 2 words. Change of plans. My stomach tightened. Kayla frowned. What does that mean? Before I could answer, the phone rang. Ethan's name lit up the screen. I answered. Hey. His voice sounded different. Tense. Ava, we need to talk. What about? Silence. Then he said something that made my heart stop. The wedding might have to be cancelled. Florida sunlight poured across the marble floors of my condo like nothing unusual was happening. Palm trees swayed outside the balcony. Traffic hummed along Collins Avenue. Tourists walked toward the beach with towels and sunglasses. It was a perfect Miami morning. The kind of day people get married. The kind of day people start new lives. But when Ethan said the words, "the wedding might have to be cancelled," the air in the room went completely still. Kayla froze across the kitchen. My heart thumped once. Hard. Then everything inside me shifted into survival mode. Cancelled? I said calmly into the phone. Ethan sighed on the other end. Yeah, something came up. My voice stayed steady. What kind of something? Silence. Then he said carefully. Financial complications. Kayla mouthed the word liar across the room. I leaned against the counter. Financial complications the morning of our wedding? Ava, it's complicated. No, I said quietly. It's not. Another pause. Look, Ethan said, we just need to delay things a little. How long? Maybe a few weeks. A few weeks. Long enough for the money transfer to happen. Long enough for him to disappear. Mark had been right. They were accelerating the plan. I walked slowly toward the balcony doors. You're serious about canceling? I think it's the smart move. For who? For us. The lie slid out so easily it almost impressed me. Kayla watched me carefully. Waiting. Because she knew something Ethan didn't. I was never canceling that wedding. Not after everything I'd learned. I stepped onto the balcony, Miami's skyline glowing under the late morning sun. You know what's funny? I said casually. What? You've been planning this wedding for months. Yeah. And now suddenly you want to cancel. Ava, I'm just trying to protect us. My smile sharpened. Protect us from what? He hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything. Ava, he said slowly, you trust me, right? I closed my eyes for half a second. 2 years together. 2 years of memories. Vacations. Late-night talks. Laughter. All fake. Of course, I replied sweetly. Kayla nearly choked on her coffee. Ethan relaxed instantly. Good. Because I promise this is the right decision. My fingers tightened around the phone. But here's the problem, I said. What? The guests are already flying in. I know. The venue's booked. Yeah. My dress is literally hanging in the living room. I understand. So canceling today would be. I paused. Kind of humiliating. He didn't respond. Because he knew I was right. Ava, he said finally, people cancel weddings all the time. Yes. But usually they don't cancel them 4 hours before the ceremony. Kayla nodded vigorously. You're being dramatic, Ethan said. My smile faded. No. My voice hardened slightly. I'm being practical. So what are you saying? I leaned against the balcony railing. I'm saying we should still have the ceremony. Silence. Then Ethan said slowly. You want to go through with it? Of course. But I thought. You said this was about financial complications. It is. And we can deal with those after the wedding. The line went quiet. I could practically hear his brain calculating. Because if he refused now, he'd look suspicious. But if he agreed, he was walking directly into my trap. Okay, he said finally. My heart beat once. Okay? We'll do the ceremony. I smiled. Great. But Ava. Yes? We might need to keep things small. Oh? No big speeches. Kayla rolled her eyes dramatically. And maybe skip the reception. I almost laughed. The man was terrified. "Don't worry," I said sweetly. "Everything will be perfect." The moment I hung up, Kayla burst out laughing. "Oh my God. What?" "He's panicking." "Good. You heard that, right?" "Yep. No speeches." I smirked. "That's adorable." Kayla leaned against the couch. "So what's the plan now?" I checked my phone. A message from Mark appeared. Transfer attempt scheduled for 3:45 p.m. The ceremony was at 3:30. Perfect timing. I typed back quickly. "Everything proceeding as planned." Kayla looked over my shoulder. "So during the ceremony?" "Yep." "While he's trying to move the money?" "Yep." "You're going to expose him?" I smiled slowly. "In front of everyone?" Kayla shook her head. "You are terrifying." "Thank you." By early afternoon, Vizcaya Gardens looked like something out of a movie. White chairs lined the stone pathway. Roses covered the archway overlooking Biscayne Bay. The historic mansion stood behind it like a European palace. Guests arrived in luxury cars. Women in elegant dresses. Men in tailored suits. My father stood near the entrance greeting people. He looked proud. Happy. Completely unaware that his entire plan had already collapsed. Inside the bridal suite, Kayla zipped up my dress. The silk felt cool against my skin. "You look amazing," she said. "Thanks." "Like, revenge goddess amazing." I checked my reflection. Hair styled perfectly. Makeup flawless. A bride ready for her wedding. But behind my calm expression, my mind was razor sharp. A knock sounded on the door. "Come in," Kayla said. My father stepped inside. He stopped when he saw me. For a moment his eyes softened. "You look beautiful." "Thanks, Dad." He adjusted his tie. "Nervous?" "A little." "That's normal." He paused. Then said quietly, "Are you sure about this?" I studied his face. "You mean Ethan?" "Yes." The irony almost made me laugh. "You were worried about him yesterday." "I still am." "Well," I said calmly, "today we'll see who he really is." My father frowned slightly. But before he could ask anything else, the wedding coordinator rushed in. 5 minutes. Outside, guests took their seats. The Florida sun reflected across Biscayne Bay. Music began playing softly. Ethan stood at the altar in a black tuxedo. He looked nervous. His eyes scanned the crowd repeatedly. Searching. Calculating. Probably wondering if his offshore transfer was ready. The music changed. My cue. My father offered his arm. "Ready?" I nodded. We stepped onto the stone path and began walking toward the altar. Every guest stood. Phones came out. People smiled. To them, this was a beautiful wedding. To me, this was the beginning of a public execution. Ethan watched me approach. For a moment he actually looked relieved. Like maybe everything was still under control. Like maybe his plan would still work. Poor guy. We reached the altar. The officiant smiled warmly. "Dearly beloved." My phone vibrated softly in my bouquet. A message from Mark. "Transfer initiated." Perfect. The officiant continued speaking. Guests listened quietly. My father stepped back. And Ethan reached for my hands. His grip was warm. Familiar. Fake. "Ava," he whispered quietly. "I'm glad you came." I smiled. "Oh, Ethan." "Yes?" "I wouldn't miss this for the world." The officiant began the vows. Marriage is built on trust. The irony almost made me laugh. Honesty. Ethan shifted slightly. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't check it. But I knew what it was. Confirmation of the transfer. Then the officiant said the words everyone waits for. If anyone here objects to this marriage. He paused. Speak now or forever hold your peace. The garden went silent. A breeze moved through the trees. And slowly. I raised my hand. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The officiant blinked. Miss. Ethan's face went pale. Ava, he whispered. I stepped forward. Took the microphone from the officiant. And turned toward the guests. Hi everyone. 200 confused faces stared back at me. My father looked stunned. Lily sat in the front row. Her expression slowly turning nervous. Perfect. I know this isn't traditional, I said calmly. But before I marry Ethan. I smiled slightly. There are a few things everyone should know. Ethan grabbed my arm. Ava, what are you doing? I gently pulled away. Just telling the truth. His eyes widened. I turned toward the guests again. For the past 2 years. I paused. My fiancé has been planning to steal $5 million from me. The crowd erupted into shocked murmurs. Ethan's face went completely white. Ava, stop. Oh, I said sweetly. I'm just getting started. And right then. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mark. Only 3 words. Transfer complete, but wrong account. My heart skipped. Wrong account? Before I could react. Ethan suddenly smiled. Not nervous. Not scared. Confident. Then he leaned closer and whispered something that froze my blood. Thanks for the distraction. The sun hangs low over Biscayne Bay, reflecting off the water like molten gold. The breeze carries salt through the palm trees, and the historic stone gardens of Vizcaya shimmer in the heat. It should have been romantic. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it was the exact moment everything exploded. Because when Ethan leaned close and whispered, "Thanks for the distraction," a cold shock ran through my body. For a split second, I wondered if he had somehow beaten me. If his plan had worked. If the money was already gone. He straightened his tux jacket like nothing was wrong. 200 guests stared at us. Confused. Whispering. My father stood frozen beside the aisle. Lily's face had gone pale. And the officiant looked like he had absolutely no idea what to do. Ethan turned toward the crowd and forced a polite smile. Everyone, he said smoothly, I think there's been a misunderstanding. His voice was calm. Controlled. The voice of a man who believed he was still winning. Ava is under a lot of stress today, he continued. Weddings can be overwhelming. A few guests nodded awkwardly. Some people even chuckled nervously. Ethan looked at me again. His eyes carried a quiet warning. You don't want to do this, he whispered. But the strange thing about betrayal is this. Once someone breaks your trust, fear disappears. And in its place comes something far more dangerous. Clarity. I raised the microphone again. Oh, Ethan, I said softly. You're right about one thing. His eyebrows lifted slightly. What's that? This is overwhelming. I looked toward the guests again. So maybe we should slow things down. Ethan shifted slightly. I could see the calculation behind his eyes. Trying to figure out what I knew. Trying to decide how much damage control he could still do. But what he didn't realize was that the real show hadn't even started yet. Let's try something, I said. Then I turned toward the large white projector screen that had been set up for the reception slideshow later. Kayla? Across the garden, Kayla grinned like someone about to launch a missile. Oh, I've been waiting for this. She tapped her tablet. And suddenly, the screen behind us flickered to life. The first image appeared. A financial document. The title in bold letters. Silver Coast Holdings LLC. A murmur spread through the crowd. Ethan's confident expression cracked slightly. "What is this?" he asked quietly. "Oh," I said sweetly. "Just your company." His jaw tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really?" Kayla tapped again. The next document appeared. Ethan's name. The incorporation date. His signature. The crowd gasped. My father stepped closer to the screen. Confusion turning into anger. Ethan's voice hardened. "Ava, this is private financial information." "Yes," I said calmly. "And it gets better." Another tap. Another document appeared. The original transfer authorization for my trust fund. $5 million. Transferred yesterday. Signed by Ethan as witness. The crowd erupted in whispers. My father looked at Ethan slowly. "You signed this?" Ethan opened his mouth. But before he could answer, the next slide appeared. It was a recorded voice message. A play button appeared on the screen. Kayla pressed it. And suddenly Ethan's voice echoed across the garden. Clear. Cold. Relax. Ava has no idea the trust fund's already gone. A wave of shocked gasps rippled through the guests. Lily stood up abruptly. "That's fake." But the recording continued. "Once I marry her tomorrow, I legally control the rest of her assets." The crowd went silent. My father's face turned red. He slowly turned toward Ethan. "You lying son of a..." Ethan stepped back. The calm mask he'd worn all day shattered. "This is manipulation," he snapped. "You hacked private recordings." "Oh, Ethan," I said. "You're still missing the best part." Because at that exact moment, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Mark. "Now." Perfect timing. I walked toward the screen. Everyone here probably thinks this story is about $5 million. I paused. But it's not. Another tap. The screen changed again. Now showing a live bank transfer confirmation. Account name. Silver Coast Holdings LLC. Transfer amount. $5 million. Status. Completed. Ethan smiled suddenly. A slow, arrogant grin. "You're too late," he said quietly. The guests turned toward him. And Ethan shrugged confidently. "The money's already gone." A ripple of panic moved through the crowd. Lily's face lit up with relief. My father looked like he might explode. But I just stood there calmly. Then I tilted my head slightly. "Is it?" Ethan frowned. "What?" "You're right," I said. The transfer did complete. His smile returned. "Yes. But you forgot something." His expression darkened. "What?" I lifted my phone and turned it toward him. On the screen was another bank confirmation. A second transfer. Same amount. $5 million. But a different destination. Account holder, Ava Reynolds. Ethan's face drained of color. "That's impossible." "Oh, it's very possible. You can't reverse a transfer that fast." "You're right." I smiled. "Normally you can't." The crowd leaned forward. Listening. Watching. Ethan's hands trembled slightly. "Then how?" "Because," I said calmly, "you never transferred the money." Silence fell over the garden. Ethan blinked. "Yes, I did." "No." I pointed to the screen. That account belonged to Mark. And right on cue, Mark walked into the garden. Guests turned in shock. Mark smiled politely. "Hi, Ethan." Ethan stared at him. "You." Yep. Mark stepped beside me. Funny story actually. He gestured toward the screen. When Ethan created Silver Coast Holdings. He paused. He forgot to secure the banking authorization. Ethan's eyes widened. No. Mark nodded. So when he attempted the transfer. He smiled slightly. The system routed the funds through my firm's holding account. The realization hit Ethan like a truck. You stole it. Mark shrugged. Actually. He pointed toward me. She owns it. The guests erupted into chaos. My father stared at Ethan like he wanted to destroy him. Lily looked ready to faint. And Ethan? Ethan looked completely broken. You ruined everything, he whispered. I met his eyes calmly. No. You did. The police arrived 10 minutes later. Apparently financial fraud involving $5 million attracts attention. 2 officers walked directly toward Ethan. Sir, we're going to need you to come with us. Ethan didn't fight. Didn't argue. He just looked at me one last time. You think you won? I tilted my head. I know I did. Then the officers escorted him away. Lily tried to slip out quietly. But my father stopped her. His voice shook with rage. You were part of this. Dad, Don't. His voice cracked. Don't call me that. Lily burst into tears. But no one moved to comfort her. Because sometimes people finally see the truth. As the sun began setting over Biscayne Bay, most guests slowly left the garden. The wedding was over. The lies were over. The entire illusion had collapsed. Kayla walked up beside me. Well, she said. That was the craziest wedding I've ever attended. I laughed softly. Same. Mark looked at the empty altar. You okay? I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal. The lies. The revenge. Then I looked at the ocean. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt free. Yeah, I said quietly. I'm more than okay. Because sometimes the worst betrayal in your life becomes the moment you take your power back. And sometimes, the best wedding gift you can give yourself is not marrying the wrong person.